East African nations could be losing up to $2 billion every year due to improper frameworks upon which tax incentives are given to investors. We attended the second tax summit in Nairobi, which highlighted how the region can attract investment through tax. Take a look.
Tax incentives have the ability to contribute between 1 to 1.2% to GDP in developing countries. However, at the second annual tax summit in Nairobi, the debate on tax holidays highlighted a dilemma: whether Africa is reaping the benefits of such incentives in terms of attracting and maintaining foreign direct investments.
When I see investors, first of all, they will ask first question, what opportunities are there available in Kenya for us to consider? Then they will quickly ask, what will the government do for me? What incentives are there?
With East Africa losing between $1.5 to $2 billion on tax breaks every year, experts are shifting focus on the framework upon which incentives are offered.
The truth is, it creates a very unlevel playing field, especially when there isn't the clear policy framework, there isn't a guideline that says, what was this tax incentive given for? There isn't a time frame for it, again, because it's a completely open-ended arrangement when you don't know what and when it is going to end. And when, especially when we look in less stable countries around us and they encourage tax incentives and they don't have the frameworks to support it, it becomes a very big challenge when you're trying to encourage investment in those particular countries.
Kenya expects foreign direct investment to hit $2 billion in 2016, according to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives. The tax incentives have a role to play in this growth. Nonetheless, tax experts agree that incentives should be investor-specific.
We think incentives are important, but for them to really have the right impact, they need to be conditional. Don't give everyone across the board similar incentives. You must make sure that the incentives are given based on the impact the investor creates.
A classic example of the impact of tax incentives to businesses in Kenya is the introduction of a 50% excise duty on low-cost beer product Senator Keg, produced by the East African Breweries Limited in 2013. In that year, the company lost 75% of product sales, while net sales grew dismally at 4%.
When the incentive on excise was in place, volumes grew, the proportionate growth in illicits declined. You found that then the catchment area from a tax perspective grew, the investment grew, there was more employment because that created a completely new distribution chain, a completely new business in terms of the people who are distributing this, marketing it, and creating outlets for this. And so then the incentive was removed. And once the incentive was removed, the taxes went back up. The whole industry collapsed.
While incentives have their place in enabling economic advancement, Kenya could be better off with a stable business environment, one that attracts investors into different sectors.
And unfortunately, most of our nations, particularly in the sub-Saharan region, does focus on tax incentive, and to me, this is a tax instrument that is overly used, as opposed to focusing on laying out a platform that is going to necessarily attract investments. Here I'm looking at the investment climate, like creating a conducive macroeconomic environment, have right tax policies which are predictable and are fair to all, having inputs to manufacture that are affordable to all.
When an incentive is given to drive some responsibility from a socioeconomic perspective, when it is given and you can visibly see the economic returns is going to yield from a job creation point of view, because that is the biggest measure for us in developing economies, job creation, then I think the tax incentive works.